welcome into this week's book club episode, Breaking Down Bloodline, where we talk about the novel by Claudia Gray. We are discussing chapters 26 and 27 today, which means we are getting right along through the book. We are almost done. We'll only have 2 more episodes after this. But if you would like to join this series from the beginning, you can go ahead and click here, and this link will take you there. Basically, we're discussing this book a couple of chapters at a time, getting into the nitty-gritty, and having a grand old time. I'm so excited. It was my goal well over a year ago to get us through this book, as well as the entire Aftermath trilogy before the Rise of Skywalker. We did the Aftermath trilogy earlier, and we're finishing with this, and I'm so excited that we got through these books, and they've proven to be more and more important to the greater canon as we've gone through, and it's just been really exciting. But let's get into the chapters for today. We have Leia, Joff, and Greer. They are off on their adventure with C-3PO to go to Sebensko, or however you would say it. And they're trying to track down Rin Riven Die and do all of the things, and we're in the end of the book. Like, this is the final act. This is what everything's been building to. We're heading towards a final confrontation. The place they're at turns out to be an elaborate underwater base. They land on this platform that pops up out of the ocean. It's like part the prison from Captain America Civil War, where like you have to land on a thing that comes up to the surface, but also the whole underwater city thing really made me feel like the city of Rapture from the BioShock series. So there's some cool different vibes going on here. I don't know what her actual inspiration was for it, but those are the 2 images that came to mind. But what's important about it is this place costs a lot of money, right? A lot of money and bigger ambition. Why would you hide a base under the seafloor? Now, what we discover as we go through the chapters is it starts with just like a simple base, and then eventually we're going to see that Leia and 3PO get into the files and figure out that it's even bigger. And then later, if for some reason you're watching these series and you're not reading the book along, and you're kind of like figuring it out for yourself, I'm about to spoil something in the next chapter for you, but there you go. But as we see in the next chapter, we actually hear from Han Solo, and Han Solo talks about how he was here before. But I would imagine that entire military base was not there. So this is a base that existed, but then has been built upon for various reasons. And the reasons being they're forming an army. A really big, scary army. Now here the team splits up. Greer and Joff go to get their gear, whatever it is that they've been tasked to pick up at this base. Leia goes off to try to track Rin Riven because she has a tracker. When she gave the hologram of her killing Jabba back to him, she hid a tracker within it and has been using that to figure out where he is once they're close enough for the signal to work. As it turns out, the cargo that Greer and Joff are to pick up is thermal detonators. Really, really nasty things, like the thing from Return of the Jedi and the thing that Han Solo pretends to have. Very dangerous, and they're headed for Hosnian Prime, so now we know that the Republic is in deep trouble. When Leia is with 3PO, she notes that the archways of the underwater city have archways that, or some archways are more important than others, and that some seem to be far more load-bearing, which is something that comes in handy by the end of these chapters. 3PO hacks into the computer, and there's a couple little fun things that go on here. One, 3PO is describing the personality of this computer. Leia takes a moment to kind of contemplate the nature of droid sentience, which has been a thing more and more discussed in new canon, obviously with L3 from Solo, a Star Wars story, but just in general has been a running theme in the books and comics more of this idea of are droids people, and so this is just another moment where this gets contemplated. There's also a point where Leia is urging 3PO to continue hacking faster, and 3PO says the line, I am trying. This was probably unintentional, but I thought it was kind of funny because there's a bit in Attack of the Clones where Obi-Wan's like, why don't you listen to me? And Anakin's like, I am trying. It was just funny because Anakin made 3PO and he said something that was something like Anakin said, but I am trying is also a basic enough sentence that it's probably a coincidence, but it was just something that struck me, and I felt like saying it. Eventually, 3PO gets the proof, and Leia sends him back to Greer and Joff. Leia understands now how dire everything is. She knows that Greer and Joff, after they talk, they have explosives. So Leia's like, nope, the most important thing is 3PO. We need to get 3PO out of this base and get this evidence to the Senate. And then Leia's going to continue to snoop around, because she knows that by the time the Senate has investigated this, everything will be so public that everybody will have moved out of the base. So this is like her one shot to go get more information. The chapter ends with Leia in a confrontation with Rin Riven. He finds her in a hallway and Leia realizes she's trapped because he's been tracking her. He was aware that she had a tracker on him. He didn't know who, and then he figured out it was her. It was a really cool thing because where this chapter ends, Leia's like, I'm alone and I'm outside of my purview and I'm trapped. And then the next chapter, chapter 27, starts with her going, correction, and she lists all of that stuff. And I have a blaster, and so she pulls this blaster out of her back pocket and gets the jump off on one of Dai's guards and is holding the other at gunpoint. And so chapter 27 is really like where the meat of everything happens. Leia's in a standoff with the guard, and they think that it's going to be a matter of like, Rin Riven thinks she's going to try to like run away. And I like Leia's line of, I have forgotten more about blaster ranges than you'll ever know. It's a very Leia line and very apt for how much she has it within her. What she ends up doing is she finds like the one strut, the one bolt that is like super important to this archway. She shoots it and the water crashes in, and then she races up the stairs and manages to get on the other side of the water door, protecting her, killing Rin Riven and his guard. This was a cool part. So we know Leia is a good shot. She has been at war. We've seen her be a good shot before. This could be as simple as Leia is a really good shot, and we're seeing Leia be good at this. But me, when I read something like this, especially in the context of The Last Jedi and seeing her use the Force, I gotta wonder, is this a part where Leia may have unknowingly used the Force a little bit? I think the book would have said if she knew she was doing it, but that she managed to find the one part to shoot and then managed to hit it when she said not everyone would be able to hit it. I think that the Force has kind of always guided Leia in a way she doesn't even understand. And the reason why I feel that way about this passage in this book is Claudia Gray also wrote Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which I really recommend. But in that book, there's a couple of passages where Leia is off doing this training, and she kind of saves herself by using the Force. And the way it's written in that book, Leia doesn't really understand what she's doing. She would have no understanding that she would have any access to the Force. But we, the readers, know, and the narration of that story is written in a way for us to know that's kind of what she's doing. Even though Gray wrote that book after this, I think Gray probably wrote different things in this book with that in mind. Even Leia being able to run fast enough at her age, granted she's in shape, but still being able to run at her age and make it on the other side of the door. I feel like there's a little bit of Force stuff going on here, but that is just speculation. Leia is also aware that her life isn't worth the data. She's hoping that Greer and Joff have really gotten away, even though she's in trouble now. She doesn't want to hold them back. She had previously told them, like, if she's not back within an hour, take off. She calls them now to say, just get out of here, because when she crashes the tunnel, the base is going to go on lockdown and they might not be able to get away. So Leia is like, nope, you need to just go. I can find a ship, I can steal a ship, and I can escape. So that's kind of where she leaves herself. That is very much a very Leia thing to do. Now, Greer and Joff are not out of hot water. In fact, they're still underwater, and they're still underwater with a crate of thermal detonators. So they're like, okay, we gotta get out of here, but we also gotta be careful. And they certainly don't want to leave Leia, but they understand that it's necessary. But it's as they're having this conversation that 3PO reveals that they're not just at a base, they're at a base that contains an army. And so that now they know that Leia is in huge trouble because she's not going to be alone wherever she goes. It is then we find Leia, and we find Leia walking in on half a dozen of these troops. This was a cool moment, again, because Leia she's pulling some tricks. She's like, okay, these are some younger warriors who probably would respond in a way to somebody being motherly with, not wanting to hurt her, but, like, also not having a lot of interest. So she plays, like, the alarms were so loud, and I'm confused, and all of these moments, and really kind of plays it up, and almost gets away with talking her way out of this. It's nice, too, because she mentions that she thinks of Ben. So she is thinking about Ben and being motherly to Ben, which is how she can act motherly to these people. So she almost gets away, but then they run facial recognition on her. They figure out who she is, and then she has to fight her way out. She runs through the only door she can, and the only door she can find, as it turns out, is a hangar. So now they're like, well, we'll just flood her. So they go to open the gate. She gets the force field up, because the way the system worked was there's a dome and a force field and all of that. So she's like going to the surface. She knows she's going to be a sitting duck. There's ships that are going up there to shoot at her too. And then, this is what I mentioned earlier, lo and behold, Han Solo shows up. So Han shows up. He's not in the Millennium Falcon, which he presumably doesn't have at this point. He is in a racer, rescues her, and I really like this sequence because not only do Han and Leia get to be reunited, but they get to be reunited and fight together. And I like how it's described that Leia can aim while she's flying with Han, because she knows exactly how Han's gonna fly. She knows exactly how he's gonna zig and zag. They make this really good team. And again, it's really nice seeing them be a good couple. And Leia even comments to herself how the frustrations of being apart go away and the bickering goes away because they actually get to fight and be together. Greer hears from Han. She's excited. But the big thing that happens then is Leia shoots down one of the ships. The ship crashes into the base. Crashing into the base makes the base rock back and forth, and then all of the explosives still in the base blow up, and the whole base blows up. This is the one part of the book I've ever heard any kind of criticism for, and I've been gushing about how much I love this book every book video in the series. But I get it. Like, this felt a little bit like Deus Ex Han Solo, right? Like, I love that Han showed up, because he had gotten Leia's message. Leia said where she was going. I love that Han dropped everything to get to her. But, like, he's there right then, and then they just happen to blow up the whole base. I kind of like it, because at this point, we need to know that the First Order is on the rise. We need Leia to know that the First Order is on the rise, but the galaxy can't really know yet. So it's good that the base isn't there just from a story perspective. And in fact, we don't get this indication in the story, but it's also possible that the base was intentionally destroyed because of witnesses. There's some different things that could be going on there. It really is here's a mystery. We wrapped it up really fast. I mean, this was a mystery that had been going on this entire book, and it was basically concluded in a chapter. And I can get how that feels abrupt. It felt abrupt to me. Now, that doesn't really bother me because the important part of this book is the politics. It's not the action. It's not the rough and tumble stuff. Like, you read this for Leia's emotional journey, and you read this for galactic politics. So to the extent that something that this book was not necessarily about is the weaker part of the book, it's not a book killer for me. And it's really the only part of the book that feels weird to me. And in a whole novel, if there's only one part that's like, huh, alright, it's doing pretty well. And it doesn't even feel weird in an inconsistency way. It's just quick, right? We'd been building to this so long, and we didn't have a huge confrontation. But it also makes sense. Leia is not going to get in a massive firefight. She's all by herself. What is she going to do? Are they going to, like, for the first time, see Leia with a lightsaber in this book and not on screen? This was pretty much what it was going to be. I understand the reason why it is the way it is. It is a little bit too bad because it is very abrupt. But again, like I said, not enough for it to really wreck this for me. I was so happy to see Han come back. And the big thing here is we realize just the extent of what the Amaxians are up to. Now, Leia, of course, doesn't necessarily know about the First Order yet, but we do. We know this is the start of the army that would soon come to stand against the New Republic in just a few short years. To see the scope of it and how long this is going on, I mean, again, like the Semesco base was obviously already there. Han said he'd already been there, but it takes time to put in the addition of stuff that's there, and just to see how long and how patiently the First Order planned their plots to take over the galaxy is really intense to see. It really comes from the roots. Of course, Palpatine was a planner, and it shows how they could just kind of show up and really go from where we see them in The Force Awakens. In The Force Awakens, they're still in a Cold War, and that's something that's easily missed when you watch that movie. But there's a reason why the New Republic is not fighting the First Order and why the Resistance is. And this book is going to get into what the difference is therein. The First Order goes from a thing that people aren't super worried about to blowing up an entire system to The Last Jedi, where they have, like, galactic supremacy, and how that happens. And it happens because of the seeds that are being laid up until this point, and it's really cool to see them in the context of this book. And really, that's all I have to say about these chapters. This is a little bit shorter than my last couple of videos have been, I know, but this is a lot of action to talk through, and we're really coming up on the conclusion. The next two videos, the last two videos in the series, I'm going to have that's when we're going to actually get to the conclusion of the matter, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about all of that. So for next week, we're going to read chapters 28 and 29. Please continue to leave your suggestions on what we should do when I pick up the book club again in January or February. I saw some, but not many suggestions from Legends canon, so that leads me to think that the majority of you would rather have a new canon novel than a Legends novel, which is good. That narrows it down to quite a few books. In terms of canon, I'm kind of leaning towards Catalyst, if for no other reason than I like that we did Aftermath, Bloodline, and then Catalyst, and it'll be like ABC. Part of me wants to read Dark Disciple. That's a book I wanted to reread anyway for another series I'm doing on the channel, so it would be very convenient to kind of do it for this as well. We could do that after Catalyst, because then we could do ABCD. I was also thinking Most Wanted, because Ray Carson, who wrote Most Wanted, is writing the Rise of Skywalker novelization, and people might want to check that book out. But those are probably the ones I'm leaning towards the most. Rebel Rising was also brought up. Either of the Battlefront books would be good. Saw a couple votes for Master and Apprentice, if you guys wanted another Claudia Gray novel. But those are the books I'm probably leaning towards the most, so let me know how you guys feel about those suggestions. Please leave a comment and follow us on all the things if you haven't already. And I will talk to you guys next week for the penultimate episode of Bloodline.